of course, the AI that everyone knows, artificial intelligence, is on the rise, and most people are embracing it, but some people are fearing it, feeling as if it's going to take over and, we're going to become like robots. But I think that most of us are artificially intelligent, apart from our emotional intelligence and our social intelligence. But I think what's happening is that while AI is on the rise in terms of artificial intelligence, we must not forget who we are, just the human person, the human being, and be in awe of the true beauty of being human. And this is where AI, in terms of all intelligence, I've come in with that because it's the beautiful emotion of awe, which unfortunately hasn't been given enough attention in the field of psychology. It's only in the recent, maybe 15 years, that this emotion has really been studied and delved into. And the more I've become more passionate about it, I've realized the true benefits of this emotion.
And it's awe, AWE, like wonder, amazement. Like
Yes,
I'm in
awe
awe.
and wonder.
Yeah.
Absolutely, I'm in awe. It's that aha moment. It's that goosebump moment. It's that, it's you basically stop in your place. You like, I think even our facial expressions is can represent awe. Just when we see something, we like, oh, it's that symbol of, sometimes if you just look at a newborn baby and you can't help but to go, oh, and just experience the beauty of that new life coming into being. But there's many ways that we can experience awe. It's the one emotion that we are able to shift our perspective on ourselves and on worldly views. Um,
Okay.
yeah.
So how do we do it? So I know there's many beautiful things around me, and but there's many days I do get, let's say, frustrated, and I can't see that, and I'm stuck with the problems in my head. But I'm
Mhm.
trying to meditate. I'm trying to be grateful and see the things around me and be connected one on one to things around me. But it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, if just the sight of a newborn baby or the sight of a beautiful day is supposed to make us happy, then why is everyone depressed nowadays, Doc?
Because
Asha, how's that possible?
it's not as simple as just let's meditate, let's breathe. It's also about how we are doing it. We cannot be doing it in a goal directed manner, thinking that we're going to get this quick fix and experience it immediately. As human beings, we are all searching for expansion, but that whole journey to reach expansion is a process. And the process means starting off a whole new day and looking at it as if it's the first time you're seeing something. So, for example, if you walk into your office, and I'm sure that you look at that picture frame at the back and you see it's there. But if you begin to look at that picture frame every day as if it's the first time you are seeing it,
Mm.
I can assure you that you'll be able to see something different each day. And I really would like to challenge you, whether it's a picture, whether it's a tree that's outside that's been standing there for 100 years, if you begin to look at it as if it's the first time you're seeing it, that is the first moment that you'll be able to see it because you're tapping into a mindful, conscious approach to seeing the tree or the picture, where most of us are so distracted in our lives, we're just doing life like robots,
Hmm.
not able to even pause and stop and experience this emotion of awe. Because if you think about awe, it links into something for me, the true essence of authenticity. And if you take a moment and think about authenticity and you say the word authentic, what is the first sound of the word authentic?
Oh,
Awe,
wow.
exactly. And I'm all about having organic conversations. So here we are, for example, having a completely organic conversation. And this is what I've been doing for almost 19 years in my practice. Patient comes in, sits down, and we start having an organic conversation, which is completely natural. But again, let's look at the word organic. What does it sound like? What does it start with?
Oh,
Oh,
oh, wow. It's everywhere.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
everywhere around us. And if you think about the word organic and you think natural, and You asked earlier on, how do I experience this happiness? Is it as simple as just looking at something? And it's it's a little bit deeper than that, because if you look at the word normal, what
Mm-hmm.
would you say would be the opposite of normal for you?
Unorthodox, different,
Original.
weird,
Yeah.
Hmm.
maybe
Okay.
even crazy. Some people would say.
Ah, okay. So when I think about normal, I think, okay, this is the norms of life, the normal that we are doing, how we create the new sets of norms, or as we experience our life, we have new standards, new norms, but we're also very stuck in a certain set of norms and behaviors and social expectations and standards that most people feel imprisoned by.
Mm-hmm.
So the opposite of normal for me would be natural.
Mm-hmm.
And what is natural? It's when you're not being normal. And
Wow.
natural is basically living your life in the most natural way of living, which
Mm-hmm.
links into the organic and links into the authenticity. And
Mm-hmm.
the word awe is already embedded into those words, as we discovered. So natural is beautiful. It's what we need to move towards. And if you think about the word natural, within it is nature. And again, if you look at nature, I mean, any of you, Saeed, Ali, Bako,
Mm-hmm.
if you're standing at the Grand Canyon, tell me, are you looking at your watch, rushing for time? Looking at when's your next meeting? Are you
No.
thinking about the past? Are you thinking about the future? Or are you completely present in the moment, even if it's for a split second?
I was probably looking at the scenery and then saying, "Oh, wow," you know. And I feel like that's the
Absolutely.
example I can give about awe intelligence. So, from what I'm understanding of awe intelligence, it's processing and understanding of the events or circumstances that are occurring around you. And the
Hmm.
first thing that popped to my head when I understood it was when someone explains to me something, and I finally understand it, and I'm like, oh wow, yes, it's like I got it. That's how.
You've got it.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
that's what awe intelligence is like
Hmm.
going through my head right now. Just that simple understanding.
And Sahid, I mean, think about therapy and people coming to therapy and having that aha moment, that self realization that, okay, I understand. It becomes a moment of awe in that therapy session as well.
Yeah.
Because once you get that understanding, it relieves suffering. Because even
Mm-hmm.
in that moment of observing the Grand Canyon, you are completely at one with the Grand Canyon. And what's most important is that you realize that you are so small compared to the vastness of the Grand Canyon. So it begins to work on the ego, and it sort of starts looking at how, we are so small, our situations we think is so humongous,
Mm-hmm.
but on the bigger, greater scale, we
Mm.
can learn so much from actually just looking at the disillusion of the ego. And this is what the emotion of awe begins to do
Oh
when
wow.
people begin to
Yeah.
understand it.
And I
Getting
think
out
it's
of your
that.
head.
Yeah, and
Mm.
it's
Yes,
like that
I.
moment of realization that just when it covers you, just kind of cleanses you in a bit, in a way. You feel like
Mhm.
you when you finally learn something, you're no longer, when you're in that situation where you don't understand something and you don't know. You're afraid
Mm.
usually when you're going through those thoughts. You have a certain fear of the unknown. So when you
Mhm.
do have that moment of realization, you just start to feel this wave of like cleansing in a way, and
Yes.
you just feel better.
I, I like the way you're saying that. Well, what it taps into here is the heart, emotion,
Hmm.
because most of us are in doing mode. We're doing, 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 and we're in thinking mode. So we're
Mm-hmm.
literally bypassing the heart. But when you're in that moment of awe, you're actually tapping into feeling. And feeling is truth. It's when I say, I know, rather than when people use the words, I think. There's a difference there. I think this, or what if, or should have, and this is what people suffer. Because
Hmm.
when I speak about the intelligence that I speak about has no memory. In that moment of awe, when you experience it, it has no memory because you're completely present. You're
Yeah.
not thinking about the past, you're not thinking
Hmm.
about the future. Where the past has memory, the future is our imagination that all of us do. We suffer these two areas. We suffer the memory of the past and we suffer our wild imagination of the future. So, in other
Hmm.
words, we are suffering our should haves and our what ifs. And we toss between these two. And this is where people, in my experience, they come to me and they say, I'm anxious, or I'm feeling depressed, or of course I'm stressed, or
Hmm.
but when we dig deep into this, you will see that people's thoughts are in these two areas. And that is why it's very difficult for most people to grasp this concept of let's be present. It's easier said than done. Let's just be present, let's be authentic, let's meditate, let's do breath work. But it requires a very in depth understanding. Um, and all of these kind of methods are very important as a technique to get you started on the journey of knowing, of
Hmm.
feeling.
Wow, and I want to ask you a more like specific, practical question on
Hmm.
the past, the present. I mean, an analogy I have, I like to think of it as like computer RAM. Like when your computer has like 20 apps on, your computer's really hot, it can do everything slow.
Hmm.
But then when you close everything and you just have the one Riverside app, it works smoothly and it's beautiful. Okay, but there are situations. I mean, I'm curious as to Paco's thoughts about all this because right now I live in Los Angeles. I've gotten a lot of my stressors relieved, and I'm really grateful for what I have right now. But in a situation where things are hard, and there's um, many distractions and problems and inconveniences and stressors daily, how are you supposed to be in the moment and enjoy the beautiful things around you? I don't know, Paco. Do you want to share a bit more about? How-
We well, um, yeah. You honestly, like I tell you this, how people get here day by day, weed and
So substance
alcohol.
abuse,
Like
substances.
that's pretty much it.
Hmm.
Yeah, pretty much it. And they smoke a
Hmm.
lot. They smoke a lot of cigarettes. They smoke. They do like anything that kills the time. Anything that kills time. Like artificial intelligence is only for like more of an like developed nations, not for Lebanon. Lebanon is very old school in
Hmm.
the way things are done, and that's I mean, unfortunately,
Yeah,
but that's how things are
I
done
agree.
here.
It's the addictive mind. We look on the outside to get a temporary relief from what Ali described: the stress, the busyness, the overthinking. I hear that every day. I'm overthinking. People are concerned about what other people think of them. So we get into this need to seek on the outside of us anything that will give us relief, but only to find out that we go back into the same cycle and we repeat. So we repeat scripts over and over and over. And can you imagine yourself on on the stage acting, doing the same script over and over and over? So what is important to address, Ali, what you asked, is sometimes to get off the stage, sit in the audience, and maybe an exercise is to start observing yourself,
Mm.
observing this act. What is Ali thinking? Watch his words, watch his actions, watch his thoughts, watch his heart, and ask yourself, okay, so would I want to be spending 24/7 with what I've just observed? Am I completely content to be with what I observe now for a moment, which is a reflection of yourself? If you say yes, you should be smiling and happy.
Hmm.
If you say no, perhaps some self management is required. Because ultimately, we're just trying to understand how this whole system works. but we become preoccupied about our perception about someone else's perception about us. It's all about those perceptions. We overthink, and human beings take life dead serious. We are way too serious about everything.
Yeah.
If you think about children, I think they embrace awe because awe also has this flavor of curiosity, this flavor of innocence, of spontaneous behavior, trust. They ask questions. They may not look for the answers all the time, but they just ponder and they wonder away. Kids, you can they can have play dates and they can have a little bit of a argument over a toy, but half an hour later they're friends and they're playing and they're having snacks and enjoying each other's company. Adults, we can hold grudges for a lifetime.
Why? Okay, Asha, on this topic, let's talk about it. Seriously, Saeed?
Yeah.
um,
Let's go for
so on
that.
relationships, okay, now that I'm getting older, like when I was younger, I remember, in school, we had tons of friends. We see our friends all day, all night. I'd see these guys more than I'd see my family,
Mhm.
practically every single day. And you just had to get used to them. You get stuck with them. College, was kind of similar. You meet a lot of people at first. What do you think,
Yeah.
Paco?
I mean, I was
Habib
just
al
saying what the girls say.
Oh,
Um,
I love that. I love that,
That's so
Becca.
sweet. Oh man, the old days, right? And
uh,
then okay, here we
no.
are. We're getting older, and but now that I'm an adult living in the city and stuff like that, and okay, now let's say this random guy, he said something really awful to me, and we were friends, but then he did something really bad to me and he
All
wronged
right.
me. At what point, and he does it consistently, at what point do you
Can
just
I
cut
cut
off
you
that
off?
person versus try to heal a relationship? What do you think, Paco?
All right. Can I cut you? All right. So it's
Mm.
because you have responsibilities now. Now you're an adult. Now you have bills. You have things you have to do. Your friends sometimes they don't care. Like the friends are just people that you know
Mm,
for a moment. That's it. That's what friends are. Like I see you and Zali as my brothers. And I see you and
mm,
Saeed as my brothers. Like I've known you guys since I was a kid, but you don't understand. Like we have history. علاقتنا حب وملح مع بعض. And it's not
It's true.
something small.
yeah. So,
Like
Paco, sorry, I just wanted to
like
pick up on that word care.
say
That
no.
is what's lacking. Deep, deep care.
Mm-hmm.
If human beings cannot
Yeah.
begin to start caring and just being kind to each other, we're going to be struggling. It goes right back to just human culture.
Asha, do you think it's maybe from a lack of trust? Because you need a
Yes.
certain level of trust to be able to open up to individuals.
Mm,
And obviously, for us, we've had a lot of time to build that trust and
yes.
strengthen the connection between each other because we've always been around each other. We've
Mm,
observed each other's behaviors. We know every move, intention, action of each other without thinking or even having a thought
mm,
of a bad intention or ill intentions towards each other. So for me, what I see and from my interactions from trying to make new friends, because I'm the type of person who's generally open and I like sharing. I like to, even if it's like a deep memory or a deep thought or something maybe you shouldn't just share from the first interaction. Um, People tend to have like this kind of pullback reaction when you want to open up to them, or even they don't want to share in the beginning. They just want to take their
mm,
time and slowly ease into it because of a lack of trust.
mm.
So I wanted to see your opinion on that.
Sure. I think the lack of trust comes from our survival mode. So we very much, guarding ourselves, and it's me, me, me. So and most of us are in that survival mode most of the time. It takes away that natural way of being that I spoke about early. So we go into our set of what's normal, what's appropriate, what do I know? It can also be linked to trauma, which I can speak about a little bit later. But what I'm talking about in terms of the survival mode, the crisis in survival mode is trust versus mistrust.
Mm-hmm.
Trust of oneself and our outside world. So then we are far more skeptical, we're more indecisive, we're more doubtful, we're more cautious, we're more reactive. And there's one emotion that is rooted into this whole trust versus mistrust and survival mode. It's it's the demon, and that is fear.
Mm-hmm.
Fear is a very important emotion that I feel requires a whole podcast on its own
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
because we fear judgment, we fear comparison, we fear
Pain.
some pain, struggle. That is why we're becoming more and more pretentious, wearing masks, covering up, not being able to be at ease with each other. With the three of you, all of you are friends. You are completely natural when you are together. So it's
Mm-hmm.
effortless. You actually probably gain energy being with each other because that's also important because people are depleted with their energy. People are exhausted and they can't even understand why. They just feel tired all the time. And it's that depletedness that comes about when we have to be pretentious, when we have to be artificial, when we're pretending, we're wearing these masks. It takes up, it zaps our energy. But put three friends together that feel completely at ease. So
Mm-hmm.
it's the energy of comfort versus the energy of discomfort. When you are completely comfortable, it becomes effortless. There's no need for any action. It's just a complete natural state of relaxation. Imagine that feeling in your body, yet alone your mind, right? So now we're in a world where, firstly, I mean, AI is definitely taking over. Everyone's just looking down on their phones. That's a fact. There's a lack of connection. There's a lack of emotional resonance. So how can we even think for a moment to build trust if there's no emotion? People
Yeah.
don't care about each other's feelings. I mean, one day you can be best of friends. I think on a daily basis, I hear people say, oh, this person upset me. I will just block them. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's become the new trend. I'll just block you. I won't speak to you. I'll ghost you. We have to look deeper into this behavior. Is that
Mm-hmm.
really how we're going to just cope with people that we're not comfortable with? That's just a copping out from really trying to understand feeling.
I feel like relationships have been commercialized. It's like,
Mhm.
you go to a store and then you have 8 types of different chocolates that you can pick from. So, so if you just don't like the first chocolate bar you try, you go
You
for
block
another one.
it,
Yeah,
and you get
exactly. You
another one.
boycott and you're like, I don't want this anymore. I just want to go get a new chocolate bar.
Block it on WhatsApp, and you
Yes.
get another one.
100%. Yeah, same thing with relationships. You're
Yeah.
just like, okay, I don't like this. I just want a new one. Let's go get a new
Yes.
relationship. And it's so easy to meet new people.
Yeah, if you think back maybe 100 years how relationships we started, I mean, we probably just had a handful to choose from. And as time went by, maybe we had 10. As time we maybe had 100. Now we've got a whole world at our disposal with online dating and yet we're struggling. We
Hmm.
cannot find love. We cannot find union, oneness. It's the and because relationships are so important for our well-being, and people are struggling with relationships, can you understand why there's so much
Wow.
mental illness?
Yeah.
Wow. We're the loneliest generation, but also, yeah, the most depressed generation. It makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah, Ali, now you hit another topic, loneliness. This is the core of most people's problems. They're completely lonely because of that lack of connection, lack of care, lack of kindness. That's something that is just not being spoken about. This deep sense of loneliness. Not even the gaming takes them away. Not there's just not that complete connection. If you go out, look around you. How many people are actually just making eye contact with each other?
Yeah. There's a lack of intimacy. even between friends. Like intimacy doesn't have to be between a couple. It can also be between just like friends. Like generally showing that you're there, you're listening, you're respecting what this
Mm,
person is saying, and you're interacting with them. You like the love languages that everyone knows about. It's not just for your partner. You can also express them to your friends. Like words of affirmation can come from your siblings or your parents or your friends. Doesn't have to just come from your partner. Like
yes,
gift giving is a love language which can come from just like from each other. On your birthday someone gives you a gift. That's a love language, and some people prefer that over others, and others prefer maybe like physical touch. Obviously physical touch
yes,
doesn't have to be something like holding hands and stuff, but you see that even with friends, and like
yes,
hugging, and these are all things that can be done by anyone and everyone to each other. Like for me, I'm a hugger. I,
absolutely.
I like hugging people. It's just when I see someone feeling down or bad or maybe low energy, I want to give them a hug so that I can give them some of my energy, especially if I have a lot of energy myself, which I tend to do. Especially if you give me caffeine as well, it's like I'm on cocaine. So it's the
Mm.
same thing.
Oh my god, dude!
Bro, if I drink a cup of tea, I'm
What
I'm
an
jumping.
analogy!
I'm running a marathon. I don't care. It's 10
Yo, you got
kilometers.
a
I'm
line?
going. That's what happens with
Yes.
me.
Oh my goodness, you
No
got a
lines.
Starbucks, bro?
No lines, bro. I can just go to Starbucks. I'm like, give
Yeah,
me
Yeah, I
exactly.
can go to
That's all you
one
Starbucks
need.
morning
too.
brew,
Go
bro.
to
That's
like
it. Let's
Becky's.
go. Bro, I don't know what dodgy Starbucks you're going to.
And Lebanon, bro. You know, Asha, why are we so broken in some ways when it comes to each other? Like I was in the airport the other day, and then I saw this old lady. She was moving in with her bags, and then she dropped her bags, and some of her stuff fell down on the ground. And then you know, I just noticed no one tried to help her, and I wanted to help her too. But then the fear thing came in, and I was like, oh, I don't want to
Mm.
get in trouble for helping this woman.
Yes.
Pac was like, "What are you
No,
saying, bro?"
maybe I'm from the
Yeah,
Midwest.
exactly. But that's how it's true, man. I don't know what it is, man. This post COVID world makes me feel like eh, people are gonna
I'm
try to
gonna
get
tell you
mad at me for
this.
no reason.
I'm
You
from
know, I don't know.
I'm from the
Is it just
Midwest.
my head?
I was born and raised. Like I said, yes, ma'am, no,
Tell me about
ma'am,
it.
yes, sir, no, sir. Like I'm part of that. Like that's how I grew up. So if a woman fall in front of me, fell with all her stuff, then I would be obligated to go help her. It's not like I wanted to help her. No,
Mm.
obligated.
So,
Because I know someone would help my mother do the same.
so
You know exactly.
it's what comes naturally, and Ali, there was the emotion of fear in a subtle way. You were cautious. I can speak about South Africa, where I come from, and if you witness someone being attacked or hijacked, there's no way that you go and help because you're too scared of for your own safety. Most people will not help; they'll rather run away. Um, so one's upbringing, one's own experiences of trauma, um, it's very layered. But what you speak about there is just an act of kindness, and just to go back to the awe. Research has indicated that when one human being witnesses another human being being kind to humans, that's a moment of awe. And so kindness has become an experience of awe because maybe it's so rare that when it is witnessed, there's emotion. You feel. So I think that Ali, you felt for that woman, so there was emotion, but something in you held you back, and you were not able to be your natural self. But you definitely felt the emotion there of this old lady that you wanted to help. It crossed your mind, but you were you were in your thinking mode. So when you're in your thinking mode, you were not able to actually tap into your feeling mode.
I think yeah, there's a bit too much. People get into their heads a bit too much and
Mm,
might have a more logical approach at
mm,
times over an emotional approach. And I like how you use the example in South Africa how people are afraid to sometimes help each other because
Mm,
they're because of the danger mode, like survival mode. They might be in danger if they try to help someone because some people might
mm,
pretend to be they pretend to need help so that obviously they can take advantage of it. And I noticed something about people who have a certain level of confidence or like they are confident in themselves, they tend to be more helpful because their confidence in a way trumps the fear of what might happen.
mhm,
And it's including people who are like confident because of their physical abilities or their mental abilities, regardless of what it is. So obviously, for the danger part, if they're confident in their physical ability, they're more willing to help in these kind of situations because they know they can fend for themselves. So what I would advise is just people become physically and mentally capable both at the same time so that they can have this general level of confidence which can allow them to help others regardless of the situation,
mhm.
and then we can probably just avoid this these thoughts of fear or reluctance and avoidance.
Yes. I think that there's four powerful words that we should all include in our thinking and in living is just to ask, how can I help? Because if that question is asked more, I think that we'll have a greater sense of community, of collaboration between people, because we've lost that in that isolated mode. That is why we're struggling with loneliness, we're struggling with relationships, because we are all wounded. None of us are free from any kind of trauma. Let's understand that, you know.
Yeah,
But if we can really share the same story, be on the same page, we can make great changes in terms of well-being.
and that question is important because it gives you consent based on the answer that you receive.
Mhm.
Now some people might say no because they're just being tough on themselves for some reason, but that's on them. If they say no, okay, fine, you're not
Mm.
going to push it even though they probably do need the help. You didn't get the consent, you move on.
Yes,
But most
and
people
with
will give the consent, in my opinion.
absolutely, if they are asked that question, but so many people are so focused on I,
Uh-huh.
that there's no time to even think about another human being and think. There's just no. I hear that I don't have time. If people don't have time for themselves and their own well-being, where are they going to have time for someone else's
I have a
well-being?
question. Do you believe
Mhm.
that
So,
people are deduced to
mm,
numbers? Because you have to understand how people think. Because, like, as an investment banker, well, not investment, I'm not an investment banker, but after studying investment banking, you deduce people to numbers. Like, that's the only way you can see the world is through numbers. So, like,
yes,
that's, because
yes.
that's how I would feel. Like, that's how I would see someone. I'd be like, yo, you're worth 100,000. That's it. I only see is 100,000. I don't see a human being.
And look
Yeah,
at that thought process. Are you comfortable with that thought process? You must. One is to really ask the question: my thinking and my actions, is it a reflection of who I
no.
really am? Because you know it's not. And then if you are, because that is just passing a judgment and putting someone into a category. And you're quite right. That is how we live in this world. We deduce people to what's their worth in terms of money. We are more focused on investment in terms of that than our investment in our own self. We plan for our retirement far more than any other planning that we do, all because we want to feel safe. But what's the point of feeling safe if
That's
we
true.
can't manage ourselves?
On the concept of feeling safe because of the retirement planning, do responsibilities also factor into this? Because I know when building a family, a strong wave of responsibility is placed upon your shoulders. And
Mhm.
obviously, norms kick in on how you want this family to grow.
Mm-hmm.
So your approach to it really changes. So the majority of people in the world, once they have a family, they have to think of, oh, I have to put a roof over their house, over their heads. I have to get them into school, my kids into school. I have to have a car, um, food all the time, and all of these like certain these norms that are just fixed into our
Mm.
heads get placed upon us, and there are there are also responsibilities, of course. While in reality, each family can have their own way of living. Like not everyone has to live in a suburb and raise their family with a dog
Yes.
and a truck in the backyard and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It's I don't think everyone has to live that way. It doesn't make sense. It's really weird.
So you're mentioning so much in what you're saying because you are using the words have to, responsibility, norms,
Yeah.
and why can't people just live the way they want to, which is the concept of freedom. But in all the have tos and the norms, we are then going back to a preconceived idea of what we have to do and have to be based on expectations that we either set upon ourselves or even maybe societal expectations that are placed upon us. Also, or just the norms of living from how you've been brought up. And
Hmm.
there you speak about responsibility. And what is responsibility? If we really look at this word responsibility, it's our ability to respond to our circumstances, to our life. It's also linked to what you are speaking about, my responsibility to look at to see to my family. So let's look at why people become overwhelmed and stressed with these kind of natural progression in life, right? So let's take the word child. What comes to mind when I say child?
A young small person.
Hmm.
Someone
Okay.
that's easily impressionable.
Oh, empty canvas.
Yeah, it must be taken care of, I guess.
Sorry, side.
An empty canvas.
Okay.
I like that one. I like that one. Okay.
Wow,
So
Picasso.
An
see,
empty canvas. He was just talking about
so
investment banking, and now he's an artist.
now he's
Nice. I like it. I like it.
multi-talented. But now I want you to think about the same word and I want you to add one word, my child. How does that feel now?
Empty canvas.
Mm.
Non-existent,
No,
honestly.
don't say that. Don't say that.
Yeah.
Non-existent.
Don't say that.
Oh my god.
No, I don't have one.
But,
He's
Yeah,
here.
No, إن شاء
inshallah,
الله
one day I
قريب.
will, but
well, if you had one, you will feel a sense of responsibility.
Yeah.
right, totally.
And I just added one word, and that will apply to home, car, work, child. We just add one
Right.
word, my.
My
And there's stress. There's a huge sense of burden, there's obligation, there's responsibility, there's expectations, there's demands, there's so much. And all I did was I added one word.
I think my
my
description would be for my child is my friend. I don't know why, but obviously there would be the strong factor of responsibility, but at the same time, I've always had I've always had like a good relationship with, for example, my younger cousins and just children in general. There's just I feel like they always, you know how certain people have this effect on like dogs and babies. There's like this thing with like dogs and babies. You know, they if they look at you as like there's just something. You know,
they do the most good for humanity, honestly.
yeah. And I always like dogs always like tend to I tend to get their attention, and even babies as well. They just like look at me, and I'm like, and I look back at them and stuff, and I just have these conversations with them, even though they're making no sense. I just like to have conversations with babies because it's just fun. And
Yo, no
It's like, who's
comment.
this
No
funny
comment.
looking
No
guy who's
comment.
freaking
yeah,
having
bro,
conversations with me?
I'm always wearing
No
bright colors and
comment.
stuff.
No
And
comment.
I remember there's one mom just once told me is like, you should have a child soon because I think you'd have fun. just
Yeah,
being a parent. And I was like, that's an
until they're
interesting
3 years
description.
old, and
Mm,
then
mm, mm. It is fun because you tap into that energy in yourself that is just relaxed. I mean, when you interact with a child, you tap into that level of spontaneity and that innocence and that sense of adventure, um, and that sense of wonder in that child energy. Look at a child and you can't help but smile. And that already is such a stress relief, just smiling. But like I
Right.
said earlier on, we are taking life so dead serious that we can't even smile,
Yeah.
you
And
know.
also you can see that in people when you draw out their passions. That's what I
Mm,
noticed interacting with people is when
Right.
you have a conversation with them and ask them the right question, and especially when it's something they really enjoy and they like, you see they always say like their faces light up, right? When you see
they
that, that's
glow.
exactly like the same thing you can see in a child's face. And that's why you also smile when you see them being passionate about
Hmm.
something and they're talking about it in such a passionate way. Your face also lights up because it's the same reaction as
Yes,
when you see a little child just like going, "Oh, go, go, go,"
Yeah,
like that kind
exactly.
of thing.
yeah,
yes, yes, yes.
Uh huh.
After all, we're all adult children, but we just get too caught up in our doing serious robotic mode. We forget the child within us, the playfulness.
I mean, Asha, how is it that children nowadays too they're getting diagnosed with like depression and bipolar
Mm.
and anxiety, and that doesn't make any sense to me because
Because
it's
they are
like they're
also being
kids.
exposed to the chaos of life, the drama of life, the stress of life. It's becoming their norm, and they are experiencing this, and it's it's very real. We have to stop and pause. How can we be prescribing medication to young
Ooh.
children?
Oh my god, no.
You know, so if that starts off at the age of what 9, 10, maybe even younger, add 10 years to that. What will we be seeing in 10 years? Again, there's a lack of connection. I hear, I speak at a lot of parent meetings. I work a lot within education and have many of these conversations. So there's a lack of connection between parent and child because everyone is busy and distracted in their mind. There's a lack of eye contact, basic eye contact. Um, these are just core ways of connecting. It's not happening. And remember that at the end of the day, every human being wants to feel, I call it the A drugs of life, attention. They want to feel acknowledged, they want to feel appreciated. Um, and if we're not going to get that, we're going to try and we'll do anything to get that, but we crave for it, we need it. We want that validation, we want to be seen, we want to be heard. And there's less and less of that happening. So we're seeking out other ways that we can get this feeling. Whether we destroy another human being, whether we speak badly, whether we are unkind, we will get what we need to survive. But
Yeah.
how we are doing it, we need to look very closely.
You know, you brought something to my head about woke us up.
Already.
That's good. Everything,
what a
bro.
That's my
ringtone!
more wake up alarm right now.
What a ringtone!
So the thing that the term that popped in my head
Definitely will wake him up.
the term that popped in my head was how whenever someone is like trying to get someone else's attention or like the group's attention, they call them or label them as attention seekers. I don't like now as we're having this conversation, I don't think that okay, that is a certain level of attention seeking, but I don't think it's in a negative way. I think it's more of
Mhm,
like a call for help in a way. Like
mhm,
give me some
Right.
emotional support.
mhm.
Don't
Ooh.
label me as an
Yes.
attention seeker, don't reject me. Give me emotional support so that I can fit in or we can, be friends.
Right.
Or
But you
that's what
can see
I
that
want.
side. like I can see like, okay, if someone's like, let's say, being narcissistic or mean or something, I can tell that what they want is validation and attention, or just like I
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
can empathize with them, but at the same time I know it's a toxic way about going about their life too. So I don't
Hmm.
really want to interact with that and engage
Mm-hmm.
and, support that. But yeah, that's the tricky thing. It's like I'm empathetic, I'm kind, I want to do good and um give people the benefit of the doubt. But I don't know, the more I grow up, I feel like I not everyone has the same kind of intentions and value systems. Some people, the way they operate in the world is just harmful, and that's just how they are.
Ali, how do you differentiate between an attention seeker and someone who's asking for emotional support?
That's a great
Are
question
you
for
asking?
Asha. Yeah, exactly, not for me.
No,
So
I just want to.
actually,
We can both. Yeah, both of you can answer maybe.
sure. So as you guys were speaking about attention, I was thinking about maybe we're missing the whole point about what is actual attention. Because I think about myself in my therapy sessions and what am I doing? I'm giving my patient attention, and attention for me is deep, deep listening, like really making someone feel heard, right? And that is the core of it because when you feel heard, you feel acknowledged, you feel appreciated, you feel seen. And in order to feel heard, you have to obviously listen, right? And this is another thing that most human beings can't do because it requires us to actually be silent in order to listen. And what's interesting in the word listen, if you unscramble the letters, there's silent within the word listen. So there's
Wow.
there's a power in that, but how many of us can be silent with our busy minds and need to share our opinion on every matter? So if you really just listen to another human being, you're going to alleviate suffering in that human being just by the pure power of listening. It's very powerful, and that is core attention. That is very much needed. But how do you differentiate between this attention seeking versus someone that is crying for help? I mean, what is this difference? Someone crying for help with, or someone attention seeking? Is there really a difference? Because what is this person actually needing? To feel attention, to feel it. Someone is here with me, even if there's silence, right? So, um, because it's very difficult to say, oh, this person is attention seeking, this one is um, really needing help. How do you differentiate that in
Mm-hmm.
today's times? Because
Mm-hmm.
everyone seems to be looking for attention,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we see it on social
On
media
social
with
media,
our likes, but
totally.
we have it happening in our mind all the time. How many in your own mind you are saying, I like this, I don't like this, I like that.
Yeah,
So what's the difference? There's no difference.
No.
So we need to just go back to the basic values and think that let's offer everyone this deep, deep sense of attention, which is deep, deep listening. Because if you listen even to your partner in relationships, think about when we are most attentive to our partners. When we first meet them, we are completely curious about this new person that we've met. We want to engage, we are listening, we are so engaged, and we want to complete the sentence, we want to share similarities. But over time, why does that change?
because we're not
We,
listening to
we,
each
we
other.
treat we treat strangers far better than our own family members or people that are close to us. We will listen to a stranger speak than our child or our husband. In a moment, it's I've seen it.
And my dad.
In a moment, you could be sitting with your close family member, and some stranger would come, and then you'd give that person far more attention.
Mm-hmm. It's so true, Asha. I mean, I love the messages you've been preaching on this podcast. I really hope a lot of people get to hear it because I so many things we talked about, being kind to each other, giving attention to each other, not being fearful of each other, being in awe of each other and of the world around us. I mean, all these things like are magical things because I believe the world might be like if you ask people why are you depressed, they might say my job, the government, money, taxes, the street, the pothole. You know what I mean? Exactly. My cat keeps pooping on the carpet. You know, there's all kinds of things going on. Okay, but then
Agree.
there are so many things you can change that are out of your control, and there are things that are in your control that you can change, which is this: being kind to one another, being less fearful, and being in awe of the world. Um, I want to ask you, since we're wrapping up on time, about when should someone go see a clinical psychologist? Um, is it, yeah, at what point do you reach out to someone for help if you um, are struggling with anxiety or depression or anything?
Mhm. I would say the sooner the better. I think that therapy is an investment into oneself. Most people fear the process of therapy because they don't want to really begin to delve deep into their emotions, to their feelings, to their experiences. But I think the sooner one feels, the first thought that comes up that I need to speak to someone, or I want an opinion, or I just need that space where someone listens, as soon as that thought comes up, I would say take action. But what's most important when you seek out that therapist is, for me, the single best predictor of success in therapy goes right back to that relationship that you have with that therapist. It
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
must feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go through as many, but until you find the one where you can be completely at ease with, that is the single best predictor of success. Because if you can be in your natural state with another human being, you're on a good start. It's an experience of ease and comfort.
And you tell that to people who come to see you, um, like, hey,
Absolutely,
I
yes.
want you to be comfortable for this to be a good fit. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. It has to feel right for myself
Mm-hmm.
as well as the patient. It has to feel right.
Have you rejected a patient before for not feeling comfortable with them, or
I
maybe
have
not saying it's a good
in
fit?
I have rejected two patients, not rejected, but offered them alternative help and saying that I don't
Mm-hmm.
feel that I'm the best fit for them. So
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
maybe the word rejected is not appropriate, but and explaining and using it as also a way of how they may be coming across in other aspects of their life. That's maybe, but it's a great experience for the therapist to also tap into themselves and say, okay, so why was I uncomfortable with this? Because after all, we are human, right? So it's great. It's the whole transference, cognitive transference, and it's a wonderful learning experience. For me, my continued professional development is from each and every session with my patients. It doesn't come close to any journal article that I read or
Wow.
any course that I attend, because that is just me taking in information, studying the material, writing a test or a quiz, and getting the points and
That's
saying, okay,
AI versus
that's
you're
AI.
doing awe intelligence, right? By learning and
You've got it.
exploring. Well, we figured
Yes,
it out, Said.
there you go. You're
I think it was
spot
a group
on.
effort. We all worked together to find this out.
Yes,
And
and there you
Perfect.
go. All together. That's all we
yeah,
need.
Well, Asha, how can we learn more about you and people if they want to reach out to you? How can they do that?
Sure, they can reach me out through my website, through my social media platforms. I offer online courses, retreats. I do a lot of retreat programs internationally. So that's like maybe a 5 day or a 7 day or retreat, taking them out to all destinations and doing some workshops and offering them an opportunity to really get to know who they really are and building beautiful, trusting relationships. So, because in relationships, it's the grandest opportunity to get to know who you really are. That is
Hmm.
the power of relationships, and that's what we need to invest in.
Wow.
that was
Said?
great. Thank you so much, Asha, for your time. And
And a pleasure.
We will definitely stay in touch. Guys, thank you for another episode of watching A2 the show with Asha
Wow.
Dullabh. I hope you guys learned just as much as we have. And this is how we sign
Yeah,
out.
I
Salute to cover the
appreciate
camera.
Asha for your time, by
And
the